Cool. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Search podcast. I'm Elliott Manning. This is a final episode, actually, for the first season. So this is number 40. It's gone very quickly. It's been a very, very interesting journey, and I wanted to finish off with a special guest. So this week I'm joined by Louise Archer. Lou, I'll let you do the introduction of who you are, what you're all about, so that those listening can know a bit more about you.
Thanks, Elliot, and thanks for having me, especially
Pleasure.
on a special episode, your last of the season.
Yes.
It's nice to be here. I'm Louise Archer, and I'm the founder of Retrained Search. We teach contingent recruiters how to sell and deliver retained search assignments.
Brilliant.
That's
so how long have
now.
No, that's all right. How long have you been doing what you do for? I know it's it's a very well-known brand. I've seen it everywhere, especially across LinkedIn. I met you at the Recruitment Network event and was extremely impressed. And I think that it's such a big subject that those in recruitment listening hopefully can learn a thing or two. But how long have you been doing it? What's kind of the journey so far?
Oh, well, yeah. I will do my best to help and give as much, help as I can
Please.
while we're chatting. I've been teaching recruiters how to win their work and secure their work on a retained basis now for about 3.5 years.
Yeah.
It happened completely by accident. I did not set out to do it. I'm a recruiter and I was a search consultant. I transitioned to retained myself about 8 years ago, and the only reason I've ended up teaching other people is completely by accident. Somebody asked me to go and teach them how to do it, and I did, and it worked. And then someone found out about it and they asked me to do it for them, and that was several years ago now. It's sort of
Brilliant.
grown arms and legs, and I haven't stopped since. So it seems to be my calling, and I'm happy with that.
So how's it been? I mean, we'll go into that a little bit more. Could you tell me a little bit more about your background, what you're doing before you set up this business, and kind of, I suppose, who you are from a recruitment perspective? What are you all about?
Sure. I mean, I think I might have always been destined for recruitment. My mum had a recruitment agency, and I was filing CVs at the age of 10 or 11 in the school holidays. Back in the days when it was fax machines and people smoked in the office. It was a long time ago.
Very long time ago.
My brother's also in recruitment. I started in secretarial temps, and I then moved into HR recruitment with Hudson, which was TMP Worldwide. Brilliant formal training, but all contingent. And I moved into engineering first in the UK. I was in-house for a while, which was fantastic experience. So not only recruiting HR, but also being in-house TA, which was seeing it from the other side of the fence. And it was really when I started working on more technical and niche skill set positions that I started to see the benefits of working on a retained basis. I was fortunate enough to work with a guy who was working retained, and he taught me everything he was doing, and that was where things changed for me massively. And I was rapidly falling out of love with recruitment, and I couldn't really see a future for myself. I was burnt out, exhausted, billing really well, but changing the game completely by working retained just changed the path for me. And
So you mentioned a lot about change. It changed it for you. It made you fall back in love with it. What do you mean exactly? What changed? Is there anything in specific that you felt really made a difference?
So much changed. Working, what I found was it securing the financial commitment from the client enabled me to provide the service that I wanted to provide and do the job properly. But it also meant that we worked in partnership, and instead of it being a them and us relationship, and these are all sort of cliche words, but it's actually what happened to me. I suddenly found myself actually being a valued partner to clients, and not that they were constantly had their eye on, well, see what the other agency does and we'll see what else comes in. It was me. I was the person that was delivering this assignment, and it was me that was entrusted to do that, and that just generated a whole shift in the relationship with the client, the way I delivered the projects, and the amount of enjoyment that I got from the work that I was doing.
Did you find the pressure different, working from a contingent basis to then instead working on the basis of,
Yes, I did find the pressure different. I hated the pressure of KPIs. I hated the pressure of CV sends, interview numbers, calls. And, as soon as I was billing enough to be able to almost stick two fingers up at that, I did, because I don't believe personally that is the way to drive, best practice behavior and service delivery. And so I didn't like that pressure. Retained came with pressure, but it was a different pressure. It was the pressure to deliver an incredible result.
Yeah.
Not the pressure to send volume CVs or make volume calls. It was about the pressure to deliver, which for me was a better pressure, because that was the pressure that I was already putting myself under anyway on a contingent basis, but just really struggling to deliver against that whilst I was, satisfying all of the KPIs that I was under pressure to deliver.
Fine. I mean, I'm curious to know this, and something that I'm sure you've come across a lot. Businesses that focus on contingent are, I believe, there's like a fear factor to it. If they're focusing on a contingent basis, are they, they're concerned that they won't get the consistent, or the immediate flow of business if they're on retained searches. Is that right? Or is that completely different?
I see it happen in different ways. For me, once I learned how to secure work on a retained basis, I decided there and then I wasn't going to work contingently again. And I was going to put all my effort into developing business that was on a retained basis. So there was about a lag of about 3 months. And for those that make that decision to do that, they tell me, well, some of them don't, some of them, it happens very quickly. But
of course.
But sometimes there can be a lag, but because you're withdrawing your effort on the contingent work and ploughing it into BD on retained. But I also see it done really successfully too, where they maintain volume of contingent work and just secure certain assignments on retained. So it's more of a balance shift, and still you still see the contingent work coming in. So there is less of a lag in in revenue, and actually a maintain of
course,
of revenue coming in, because and it depends on the market that you're in, but if you're in a skill short market, then it makes sense to make speculative introductions of the candidates that you find on a search basis. And you can make contingent hires or contingent placements whilst you're conducting other work on a retained basis. So I think, in my experience, the two go really nicely together.
Definitely. Okay. I know a firm that specializes in a particular market of tech, and they only touch retained work only. They have no interest in anything else. And, I think this Q1 this year, they secured a piece of work that was worth $500,000. And for them, they don't care to look at anything else. They've actually got the written business there. They just have to now fill it. And they know exactly that once they've done that and given themselves, I suppose, enough time and, enough coverage to make it work, that they don't have to then work towards that contingent £500,000. It's already there. So it's a massive eye opener when I was speaking to them about it.
Yeah. I mean, so many things spring to mind when you say that. When we think about contingent, I think it's easy to think that that's a fast fee. We look at a contingent job. Oh, look, that's a fee and that's a fast fee. The reality is that average fill rates across all of the businesses that I've come across, and it's hundreds, in the last 3 years, your average fill rate's about 20%, maximum 25% on a contingent basis. So 75% of the time that you're spending is actually resulting in nothing at all, no revenue at all. So if you then put that same effort into developing retained business, where your fill rate changes to 95%, if you're lucky, if you really put the emphasis on completion higher, 95, 97% completion, which means that your time is almost all productive and fee generating, you can actually make 75% more revenue with the time that you get. That's the first, point to make. People think, oh, I can't not do that because I'm turning down a fee. No, you're not. You're turning down 20% chance of making a fee, a 75 or 80% chance of spending a load of time making absolutely nothing at all.
Of course.
So that's the first point. And then the other thing is that people say to me, why aren't there many? Because there aren't many people teaching, recruiters how to do this and how to win work on it. There aren't many people doing it. Why aren't there many people doing it? And one of the reasons that there aren't many people doing it is because once you learn how to do it, it's easy. But then what happens is you do the BD at the front end, you secure your clients on a retained basis, you then have that client. That client is yours, is a retained client, often becomes an RPO partnership or a multi-hire campaign or a framework agreement that you actually only need a fraction of the clients that you do. If you think of that 75%, you need 75% more on a contingent basis. On a retained basis, your client base becomes much, much smaller, and you don't actually need to do BD. So you talk to experienced search consultants and say, what do you do on a BD front? They're like, I don't do BD.
Yeah, I've got the work.
All my work comes from 10 clients.
Yeah.
And has done over the last 10 years. I don't do BD. All I do is network. And that's why, so there's huge advantages to taking the unproductive time out of a contingent agency and putting it into developing work on a retained basis, whether it's RPO or multi-hire, to build the future where you don't have to keep doing this BD because you've secured the clients into those retained agreements.
No, exactly. One question I've got, just for more I suppose, to understand your opinion on this. When does it get to a point where you've got too much retained work on and you get to a point, because we've had it as a rec to rec, and that's another subject I want to bring up. It doesn't matter what market, what industry, and what sector you're actually in, you could always win retained work. I feel like some people are under the mindset of, unless you're in a search firm or maybe in a professional market of tech or finance or life sciences, you can do retains there, but it works for every sector. As I said, in rec to rec, we work on it. But what's your opinion on taking too much retained work on and getting to a point of this how do you measure the amount you can actually, I suppose, manage?
It's a hugely important point, Elliott, because if you take on a retained project, you've got to deliver it. You have to deliver it. There's no two ways about it. Whether worst case scenario, you deliver the next best thing, and you give the client everything that they need to make the decision as to what to do next. But that constitutes delivery, and come what may, you have to deliver. So you have to be able to manage. You have to manage the workload that you have. You're right, and you can't just keep on taking it on and not delivering it. It really depends on the level and the complexity of the work that you're doing as to how long it takes you to deliver, and therefore how many projects you can handle at once. A standard stock answer to that is in the search firms I know and have had experience of, you can handle 5 assignments at a time. Providing on the basis that you're spending a day a week or 3/4 of a day a week on each assignment, which moves it along sufficiently to be able to, to reach a result within 4 to 6 weeks.
Of course, fine.
But lower level positions where you're not applying a full, executive search process or a full search process, you can turn around much, much more quickly, and therefore you can handle more of. Equally, if you've got multiple positions of the same nature, you've got an economy of scale of your research. You're not having to get your head into understanding, right, what am I attacking today? Because so you can handle more. So I wouldn't say that as a fixed answer, but just as a general guide.
Fine. One more final question before we kind of get into, the final subject, I suppose. And something that James Osborne actually mentioned once before, it might have even been on the call we did with you yourself. businesses taking on retainers for the wrong reasons, necessarily because they're either desperate for the money and they bring it on because it's early, it's easy income without actually measuring the whole project itself, which a lot of businesses do, or taking on I suppose the retainer because it makes sense from a partnership and a client perspective. There's businesses that are not doing it for the right reasons. Is that something that you've seen? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, one of the things that we teach in the program is when not to pitch a retainer and when not to recommend it. And one of those is if you don't want to commit. So I see people, wanting to secure retain work for the wrong reasons. One is that they just want the money up front and they don't actually have any intention of committing to working with that client until the position is filled.
Yeah.
One is where they don't actually have the capability or the experience to be able to deliver it. So if you look at a position and think, I'm not sure whether I can fill that, then that is not an assignment that you should be committing to working with that client. It's different if you know that you are the best person to work on it, and if anybody can fill it, then you can. It's just that it's a very difficult assignment. Then I would take that on, but with the condition that it is a partnership and that we might not reach the result that you're looking for, in which case, are you happy with the next best thing, and are you happy to flex parameters until we reach a result? It's different to if you look at it and think, no, there's no way I can fill it, but I'll take some money up front just to put something on the board.
Yeah.
So those are, the couple of instances that I would say, don't secure work on a retained basis. You've got to, it is a commitment, it is a commitment. And so I don't like, that's why in our program, we don't teach the sales without teaching the delivery, because successful sales is successful delivery. The reason these, the experienced search consultants don't do any BD is because they're delivering, with a consistent success, which means that leads on to the next project. Inversely, if you don't do that, then you're never going to sell another retainer because you have no faith in your ability to deliver it, and anybody else that is in your proximity isn't going to either. So the whole kind of, that's why I see the service line not taking off. That's why I see retained as a solution not taking off within a business, because of the lack of emphasis on making sure they're delivered successfully. So I don't know if I've answered your question there, but is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it kind of, goes back to like a lot of clients, in what I do and what I've come across have put so much demand on them bringing in new recruiters because they've secured such big projects of work that they can't actually deliver to it without hiring. And I don't know if that's the right or wrong thing, but it kind of relates to this. Like, it makes me, it's just for my own opinion, really. It just makes me question, like, are you bringing the work on knowing that you can deliver it without having to hire and being putting that pressured position, and kind of putting sort of false promises to your client. And that happens a lot because obviously we get the phone calls saying we are desperate and, we need help. So I just don't know whether it was just interesting to know your view on it. Obviously having, you're the expert and teaching people this.
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I do my best, I don't know everything. I'm always constantly learning, but it is so important that you take it on with the intention and the confidence, knowing that you can deliver the assignment, because it's just, you might as well not do it. It's better not to do it. It's better not to take the project on than it is to fuck it up.
Yeah,
basically.
Pretty much. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely there. And that happens too much in this industry.
It does. Yeah, because you meet so many clients that have had, have been burnt.
Yeah. Fine. Last kind of question for you, just to kind of wrap it up. Like, for those listening in and, interested in your services, is there a process they would go through to how you operate? Is there something, I mean, how do you guys function, and what's kind of the process if they're interested in working with you?
Thanks, Elliott. Yeah, we run a 7-week course, end to end, that teaches you how to win, secure and deliver work on a retained basis, whether you've got no experience of retained at all or whether you have some. Some are search consultants that just want to get better. All you need to do is go to our website, and there's a section with talk to us, and that's my diary. That's a link to my diary. So I'd love to talk to anybody that's interested in retained in general.
Fine. And any sort of, do you see anything changing in 2021 that you're what's the goal for you at the moment for this year? Other than, doing a lot more work across the retained space, do you see that being a big way forward for a lot of businesses?
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Elliott, before. In skill short markets, in tech, in finance, in pharma, and engineering, it's really the shift is, I can see the shift starting to happen, where I think there's a lack of confidence or a concern that it isn't, can I do this? Is it really right for me? Or is in all of the other, all of the other areas? So I want to give them the confidence that, like you say, it doesn't matter what market, it doesn't matter what level. It makes sense to partner with your client on a retained basis and carry out a piece of work properly. So that's really my focus, Elliott, is bringing it to those people that maybe think that it might not work for them, and helping them see that it can.
Okay, brilliant. Look, well, Lou, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all the information. I've made a hell of a lot of notes here in terms of everything you said, because it's interesting, even just for my own knowledge, to hear what you have to say. I'll be making sure that anyone that has any questions goes straight through to you, to your site, and
thank you.
Hopefully there's a few people out there that have got some inquiries and some questions to ask. If anyone wants to go through me, let me know, and I'll set up an introduction for you. But other than that, I really appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck with everything, and I'm sure we'll speak very soon.
Yeah, you too, Elliott. You too.
You take care.
Thank you very much.